Welcome to the Talking Shh podcast. That's right. We'll be talking about music, albums, live shows, bands we love, bands not so much. Again, we're talking shh. Join me, Scott Nokon, and Stephen James. And welcome back, guys. We are at it once again. Stephen James, Scott Nokon. This is Talking Shh. And we thought we mix it up a little bit of a different background, and it falls right into our theme, which I won't stretch that out. I'll just tell you that tonight we are talking about, or whenever you listen to this, we're talking about 80s music, but specifically kind of give away with the shirt. It's going to be more in the CD, and I don't know if you can see the album entirely, Stephen.
Not really.
Here. Okay, well.
There we go.
We're going to focus on something we haven't talked about yet.
Yes.
New wave. So it's a form of rock. You know, there's always gatekeepers out there, but it's just another genre, but specifically new wave. So it can go anywhere from the Police, Duran Duran, David Bowie, the Smiths. We have some Tears for Fears, the Police, some more Duran Duran little book here. So we have all the little items here.
Scott has the props.
I have the props, yeah, and Steven's got the drums. So that to make it appropriate. In the background, we won't get any. I won't even say the word. We won't get caught on anything because you can see it. So visually, those are just kind of the top new wave videos in the 80s, and we're going to run through the history. The biggest bands, the biggest tours, the biggest songs, Steven's favorites, Scott's favorites. I think we're just going to run the gamut and just see how far we go. And again, I think this is kind of a fun topic, right, Stephen?
Yeah, and because the fact that, you know, when I remember when this music first came out, I was so a heavy metal guy, and I was just so annoyed by it. And being a young, dumb, and full of, you know, I never didn't have the appreciation for music, all genres of music. I had other things I liked, but I just, for some reason, I despised it. And now when it comes on the radio, I'm just going, it's so good. What was I thinking? It's so good. And it really did shape quite a bit of music from bleeding out from the punk rock days and mashing that with disco a little bit, which ended up being this kind of poppy, fun type of music and created quite a few amazing musicians too.
Absolutely. And that's funny. Because in 82, okay, well, let's just start 80, but really probably 81, 82, right? And a lot of it really emerged, and we're going to go through some history in a little bit, but I think it's kind of fun to kind of touch on our personal experiences.
Yeah.
So let's say 82, 83, 84, kind of pick out those 3 years right now. I was in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I was, as we've listened in past shows, as you've experienced in past shows, exposed to hard rock and metal. And certainly you're influenced with the friends that you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And I remember kind of vividly in 7th and 8th grade, there were two sets of friends. There were the metal friends that were literally, there was just a couple,
That's
KP and Eric. You know, it was just a small little group. Yeah. And you were and I won't be vulgar, we're just a couple minutes into the show, but you were not all that if you liked anything that wasn't metal, or so they said, right? And I kind of subscribe to that. And I think, Stephen, you kind of mentioned too, where you didn't really know any better, and maybe you thought it was cool. I definitely fell into that section. And there was a group of friends, and I will tell you, there were cuter girls that liked new wave and like kind of the softer rock. So in that, as a young kid, you couldn't help be kind of pulled over into that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, there was a little bit more variety as far as what we did. That was the beach crowd. And we lived, we could take, I almost was going to remember the name. I think it was the the Orange County bus. It was the 57 you could take down to the beach. Um, and we'd all load up on that, or the parents would drop us off. And then going into eighth grade, we had the cruisers, but then we put either the surfboard racks on the back,
Right.
or we put the boogie board racks, and then we'd ride like the 5 miles to the beach. But it was a scene. So in that,
Yeah.
it was a different experience. So, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it. During that time, I had short hair anyway. I was in a Catholic elementary school, and then 2 years in Catholic high school. Then I decided to revolt uh, after that, going into 11th grade. But yeah, during that time, it was a whole different experience. Um, we're not going to touch on punk too much, though. New wave certainly had a kind of a portion of that I think blended some of the energy and some of the and if anything, new wave maybe had more of the pop accessibility, right?
And real quick, we will do a
Yeah.
punk show too.
We will, absolutely. Yeah, I do want to do that because right now I'm remembering there was this kid, Matt, and again, it was only like two or three of us, and this was like freshman year in high school. And as I use my talking mug,
Look at that.
this was over in Long Beach and Belmont Shore, and that was kind of the punk crowd that I hung out with um, for a little bit. So I've stayed true to metal. It's what I love, but I have an appreciation. And again, this is, I think, really the genesis of this show. With Stephen and I were talking about, we like this music. There's even some songs that we really love, and maybe more so now, years later, you reflect back on it, right? And there's little Adamant, which I'll talk about as one of my faves in a few. But beforehand, and actually before I even get into this first piece I want to share, Stephen, what was your kind of early entry into new wave music? And again, I'll say it because I didn't hide from it as much as I just kind of went with it, and everybody was kind of accepting, and it was kind of cool. It was just a bigger group of people. And like I said, there were some cute girls, and I'll stop saying it after this.
Well, and in this list that I have of that they classify as new wave, I don't necessarily believe that that's new wave, even though that they came up in that era. But my first really, which is really odd, was Duran Duran because of John Taylor, the bass player. This guy is just a phenomenal bass player. I think it's his name, John Taylor. It was three: Roger Taylor, John Taylor.
Yeah, John Taylor. Yeah.
And another one. They were not brothers.
Right.
The bass,
Taylor.
the bass. Yeah, Andy Taylor. Correct. Thank you. The bass lines in that music. And remember the first video I saw with them was, I think it was like, did we have like On TV or some weird rated R stuff? And I saw Girls on Film.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a softcore porn. I don't want to say porn, but there was kind of a more of a risque video that showed girls that were topless. And, at that age in 1981, I had just started high school. Mm-hmm. So I got, surrounded, and you're talking about girls, and the cute girls that I was hanging out with loved all that. And I was just hardcore metal. So it clashed. And that clash is what gives me to this day of remembering back and saying, that brings me back to when, and I like crank anytime any of it comes on. But Duran Duran was the very first one. And then I'm just going to real quick, one more. And just because I love her voice, she's older now, is Cyndi Lauper. My goodness, what a set of pipes on this lady.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned her before, and again, so let's take that segue into, let's see, they're eating, that might be an ad. So I have YouTube going. Yeah, they're eating buffalo wings. I don't think that's a video. Let's see if I
don't know if they had buffalo wings back then.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Bring the flavor. Yeah, well, we'll just let that run out. Yeah. I don't have the paid version of YouTube. So in the videos, and just happened the anniversary, August 1st, 1981, it was when MTV debuted.
Yes.
And so what do we got? 43 years later.
Isn't that crazy?
There, I can do math this time. It's not 1999. Yeah, LinkedIn and Udo. There, I want to get those out early too.
I listened to that one yesterday.
Yeah, but right there it says, "Do you miss the early days?" Question mark. What was the first video you saw on MTV? Do you remember the first video they played, Stephen?
I believe it was Video Killed the Radio Star, because I think they had, if I can remember, they had it on a loop for, I think, maybe for the first 10 hours or so. I was up in Big Bear on a family vacation, and everybody was like, this new thing's coming on, check it out.
Yeah.
And we all were around, probably TV this big. And I believe that's the very first video that if I recall back, that's a lot of years for me too.
So you are correct. Yes, it is. So let's go through the first 20 really quick, if I can.
Yes, please.
So first 20 played when MTV debuted August 1st, 1981. Video Killed the Radio Star, The Buggles. You Better Run, Pat Benatar. She Won't Dance with Me, Rod Stewart. You Better You Bet, The Who. Little Susie's on the Up, PhD. I know the Tesla version of that. Right. So it was a cover. I didn't realize that. We Don't Talk Anymore, Cliff Richard. Brass in Pocket, Pretenders. Time Heals, Todd Rundgren. Take It on the Run, REO Speedwagon. Rockin' the Paradise Sticks. When Things Go Wrong, Robin Lane and the Chartbusters.
No.
History Never Repeats, Split Ends. Hold On Loosely, 38 Special. Just Between You and Me, April Wine. Sailing, Rod Stewart, so second Rod Stewart. Here we go, number 16, Iron Maiden, Iron Maiden.
How about that?
Yeah, first heavy metal song ever played on MTV.
That is so cool.
REO Speedwagon, again, they were clearly popular in early 80s. Keep on Loving You, Bluer Than Blue, Michael Johnson, don't know. Pretenders Again, Message of Love, and Mr. Briefcase, Lou Rettenauer. So kind of cool, right?
Interesting. And then I got another few songs, and I don't know why our list, our list could possibly be somebody else wrote them, but I've got a handful too. It was Tainted Love by Soft Cell. Don't You Want Me, Human League. Once in a Lifetime, Talking Heads, which is a great song.
Yeah.
Girls on Film, Duran Duran. How about that? And this is another great song too when you think about it. Kids in America, Kim Wilde.
Oh yeah.
And then Our Lips Are Sealed by the Go-Go's, another band that I really love.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, once those all go, and I won't go through all those because they had the rotation, but they had it broken down. I saw a post the other day, and it basically 3 sections: videos that played once every 24 hours, videos that played 2 to 3, and then ones that played 4 to 5. And I was looking for a breakout of videos that played 10 times a day, because it seems like some videos you saw almost every hour. But
and you have to walk away. You're like, oh, come on, play something.
Yeah, how many times you see it? So let's do a little history, and then we'll just kind of set the stage. Again, if you guys have been listening, and we have video now, you can watch the show, and certainly there's a ton of content out on YouTube. But I also want to make a quick little announcement that you can now find us not only on Instagram with new Instagram with the reels and post, but on Spotify every Monday. We're actually using Riverside, which is a company part of Spotify. This is an unpaid ad that is integrating. So we're just trying it out. That's why we did the different backgrounds, just to see, is the overall video and audio experience better. It takes time to put all that, believe it or not, I know it's shocking, but it does take time to put some of this stuff together. We do it because we love it, but certainly if we can kind of compress and shorten some of the post-recording time to get the content out, then it's all the better, right?
And Scott does all the magic, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah, copy and paste, but
he's the man behind the curtains.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you.
So in that, we're using Riverside, but we also just this week, and this is episode, we didn't even say, I think we're going on to 27, right? If not, we'll just say this is the New Wave episode.
Okay.
Wow. But in that, you can find us on YouTube Music. It's all out there on, and there's quite a few, so I have to kind of look at my list. Sorry, but Amazon Music, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
Those were the three added this week, and then we also now, as of today, we have our first sponsor advertiser, and it's Wheelie Q Barbecue, and I'll do kind of an unofficial ad right now if I can, Stephen, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
And we'll do live reads of Wheelie Q Barbecue, as well as a few others that we're working on. So a little bit of a teaser. But for right now, and I'm going to send this over to them so they can approve it. So I'm sure they will. But basically, this is right off their website right now. So
cool.
So it's a family-owned business, independent family-owned business in Seal Beach, Los Alamitos in California, right there. So back when Colin and Kyla were filling hundreds of barbecue sauce bottles by hand in their kitchen, they had two goals in mind. They wanted to deliver a delicious barbecue sauce using simple ingredients and then find a way to use this business to give back. With those two goals at the forefront, Wheelie Q Barbecue was born. Colin was born with a rare genetic disease called spinal muscular atrophy, SMA. And over his lifetime, his muscles have weakened to where he uses a power wheelchair to get around and relies on his wife, Kyla, for help with a lot of his daily activities. In 2013, Colin's condition started affecting his ability to drive, and he was forced to quit his full-time job. Instead of giving up, Colin took his love for barbecue and turned it into a small family business. With the business, Colin and Kyla wanted to raise awareness for SMA and also donate a portion of the profits from each bottle sold to research into finding a cure for this horrible disease. Today, Wheelie Q Barbecue is manufacturing bottles of their original recipe barbecue sauce by the thousands and have introduced a barbecue rub, salt, pepper, and garlic, SPG seasoning, and Ancho espresso seasoning. I've used this stuff too, so it definitely does wonders for the barbecue, for the meat.
I'm down.
Colin and Kyla, hope you enjoy Wheelie Q, and thank you for the support.
Absolutely.
These products will elevate the flavor of anything you use them with. Now, I wouldn't say, but you could try. I don't know if you put it on cereal.
Hey.
But maybe, I don't know. It could help. Put it in Greek yogurt, maybe. But definitely it's intended for barbecue.
Yeah.
Again, they're I've known Colin for a number of years. He used to actually roadie with Jason Boggs back in the Gregorian Punks day.
Nice.
So it's been a number of years, and I've always been a fan of Colin and a fan of Wheelie Q, and I've purchased products over the years. So I'm really, really stoked and happy for them to want to be part of our show and part of our journey.
Yeah.
So there's going to be links on all the socials. Wheelie Q Barbecue, wheelieq.com. And when you put in an order and you put in a coupon code at TSP20, you'll get 20% off your order. And again, a percentage of that goes to fight the SMA cause. So
yes,
please, again, it's good product. It's made by great people, and it's going. A portion of that is going for spinal muscular atrophy. So you can.
I will be making an order when we get offline.
Yeah, and in the coming weeks, we'll don some Wheelie Q shirts as well. So again, Colin, Kyla, and Elena,
and perhaps do some giveaways.
Yeah, and we'll want to do that. We'll get some. We'll get some giveaways. So again, listen to us. Tell us what you think. Be a purchaser of goods. And like I said, this is the first, but there's going to be a few more. We're not going to flood with a ton of this, but we want it to be something that's impactful and that we would use and mean something. So that's kind of our criteria. So
pay it forward.
So there we go. Wheelie Q Barbecue. There.
Wheelie Q.
That was our first ad. There we go, Steve.
Very good. Thank
so
you,
our topic, 20 minutes in, we'll get to our topic now. And we kind of hit on it already with MTV and the videos, and we shared what we thought about Duran Duran and all that. But New Wave as a whole, It emerged in the late 70s and gained significant popularity in the 80s, really playing a pivotal role in shaping the music and culture of that decade. Definitely prominent early 80s, right?
Right.
Characterized by a blend of punk and the raw energy, pop accessibility, and a wide array of electronic influences. Um, let's look at some key points, and then I'll hand it over to you, Stephen. New wave really began as a reaction against the perceived excesses in the 70s rock music. Um, there was a lot of, really intricate and heavily produced styles of progressive rock. And that was great and it had a place for it. But it's kind of awesome when you see, when certain music genres are almost a call and response. One, because some folks may be sick of hearing it, and others are just influenced maybe by those earlier artists to be able to turn it. Early on, new wave was kind of interchangeably with punk, but it soon came to really represent a distinct genre that was more polished, pop oriented, and innovative.
Yeah.
The rise to popularity really was dominant, and like I said, the synthesizers, I'm struggling without my glasses. With synthesizers and in some cases barely any guitar, right? There were some bands you could hear it, like certainly Duran Duran, Fix, you could hear it, but there was more of a dominance just based on the way a lot of it was produced, right?
Tears for Fears had some guitar too.
Yeah, they did. There was kind of in that subgenres, and there's always subgenres upon subgenres, right? If you take new wave, you could go into synth pop, like Pet Shop Boys and Erasure, which I'm really not a big fan of on that.
I mean,
post-punk, darker, more experimental of new wave, Joy Division, Susie and the Banshees, and The Cure, which I like, those three. New romantic, not a fan, just and we're not keeping score, but that's more Spandau Ballet and Visage. And then goth rock, which I also like with Bauhaus, big Bauhaus fan, and Sisters of Mercy as well. Again, as you go through it, there was other bands that kind of entered. I know Stephen mentioned Cyndi Lauper, REM, Tears for Fears, Culture Club, Simple Minds. All those kind of just spread and made it kind of broader. And there was so much that became more part of the mainstream, right? And that was really, really key. Like, you mentioned some of the bands already, Stephen, but is there anything that kind of stands out? And as you're thinking through that, I'll point to some of the records that you can kind of see behind me, like Billy Idol. What he did in Generation X as punk really was very, very pop accessible as Billy Idol, with really, really good, well-written songs, right? Tears for Fears, that was another video, Head Over Heels, that I remember seeing. Probably at this point in my life, I've probably seen it 1,000 times.
Easily.
And here we go with another ad behind us. But in that, I remember seeing, again, that was one that you would see almost a couple times a day easily.
Yeah, they had a rotation for sure.
Yeah.
Talking Heads were big. Psychedelic Furs, New Order, Devo, Blondie, Culture Club, B-52s, The Police, which I still don't know why that would be in the new wave, although they just came out. And you had read a really good list earlier that included my favorite band, Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
Depeche Mode is another really good one. The Eurythmics, The Cure, Tears for Fears, what we just mentioned. I think you mentioned Flock of Seagulls, or maybe you didn't. The Human League, Oingo Boingo, Missing Persons, The Motels. Not so much new wave, but what a sultry voice she had. It was Martha Davis, I believe. And it goes on. I think you mentioned Erasure, the Tubes, and a lot of them go through so many different ones. But like, I'm just trying to pick out ones that are a little more new wave, like Echo and the Bunnymen, Modern English, Big Country. Those are the songs that played quite a bit. Pet Shop Boys, Thompson Twins. That really came out and was kind of that whole rotation of songs. And I actually remember specifically Devo with Whip It.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know that it's not necessarily the best song ever, but it's the speed of it.
Just
And you think of what they're actually talking about as we get older. I didn't know the way these songs were written for what they
right.
were talking
Yeah.
about. Um, uh, Anyhow, but yeah, so that and I think you mentioned Blondie too, was in there. So she kind of had a few of those little disco-y pop songs, and I don't think I mentioned the Cars, but all these bands now, when you hear them, for me now, I don't. Back then, I would have turned it off. I don't know why. I was like, I'm not interested unless it's heavy metal. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Now, when it's
And I was
played,
the
I
same
turn
way.
it up. Yeah, I
Right.
turn it
I was
up.
the same way. And I want to hit on a few bands, and it's true because the the new wave, the new romantic, that was too, and really sometimes it gets a little played out with all the different subgenres because you can't even keep up with them.
Yeah,
So is it, and it's okay because I know we kind of push some buttons on past shows when we referred to one, the four bands, who had the greatest impact on rock and roll, and
right.
and some people were so caught up in, yeah, well, U2's not rock and Oasis isn't rock. I'm like, well, sure they are, you know.
Yeah,
And so when you look at all this, there really was, because there was so much mainstream success. Because well, we'll get to it in a little bit, but based on Billboard, which at back in the day before the SoundScan era, which came in 1991, I believe, and the benefactor, the initial benefactor of the SoundScan era, which factored in um, radio airplay into sales as a multiplier, was Skid Row. So previous to that, it was all record sales, and there was tons, and there was a s ton of records being sold,
yeah.
in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And then, with the
Hmm.
advent of the CD, and then obviously when streaming and sure, Napster and all that
Oh yeah, I remember that.
had an effect. But, streaming now clearly is the dominant distribution force. And if someone sells even 100,000 physical copies, they're like, wow. Whereas there's some that still can sell a couple million physical plus everything else that gets converted. But
Sure.
in that, in the mainstream success, there really was this blend of pop, rock, dance, you know, um, and with alternative. And even before alternative became alternative, um, it really came out. And I love how I just lost my place on
Well,
here.
I was just going to
Alternative
actually
rock, yeah.
yeah, I was just going to segue out of Whip It into Turning Japanese by the Vapors. So
And those are great songs. It's like, even like Wall of Voodoo,
yeah,
Mexican Radio,
yeah.
Devo. Now, Whip It is fantastic. Freedom of choice. I really love. And again, there was Friday Night Videos was on NBC, and then there was another show, video show, and these were probably predating MTV, but also running concurrently because not everyone, remember back in the day had cable. So if
Right.
if you had cable, you had a lot of extra friends wanting to come over, and again, huddle in front of the console TV
Yeah.
that took up half the wall in the living room, but still had a 20-inch screen. And some of them had a turntable right on top of it.
Right.
Like it would be awesome to have one of those today. Just have it as a feature piece somewhere.
Well, when we were kids, we had to go up and turn the
You had to
channel.
turn it too. Yeah,
And then I
yeah,
remember my grandparents. My grandfather was an attorney that lived up in Pedro, overlooking Catalina, and they had a remote control, and it was two buttons. It was one to turn the channel, and it would literally go clink, clink, clink,
yeah,
and then one was the volume. It was hilarious.
yeah, yeah. That is awesome. Um,
Random.
no, but it's so true. Certainly in all of that, there was a heavy influence on fashion, film, pop culture. It really defined the look and sound. You talked about Flock of Seagulls. Duran Duran definitely were high on the fashion side, but they had great music together. So again, at the time, as a not even a teenager yet, well, getting into my teenage years, 13, 14, yeah, didn't have an appreciation, much deeper appreciation now for sure.
And there's a swath of songs that was kind of in the midst of that in about '82. I'm going to read off a few of these
Yeah.
names, and you'll be. It's kind of one of those songs where I go to my guy I work with, and I start singing a song from something from the '80s. He's like, "Thanks a lot. That's going to be stuck in my head all day long." So She Blinded Me with Science, Thomas Dolby.
Yep.
Men at Work, Down Under. I Ran, Flock of Seagulls. That song's blazing in my head right now.
Oh, yeah.
Hungry Like the Wolf, Duran Duran. Come On, Eileen, by the Dexys. Dexys
Midnight Runners. Yeah.
Poison Arrow, ABC. Do You Really Want to Hurt Me, Culture Club, which was pumping earlier, I believe, in the background.
Yeah.
Love My Way,
Still
Psychedelic
Tuesday
Furs.
right now is going on. Yeah.
It's another great band.
Yeah.
Destination of Missing Persons was definitely that, and Joe Jackson Stepping Out, Melt with You, Modern English. Those are a swath of songs where if they were playing those in a row right now, I'd listen to every one of them.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. It's real quick because that video is on behind us. So Till Tuesday, Voices Carry.
Amy Mann.
I can't tell you how many times I brought that up in bands wanting to cover it and got shot down
Really?
continuously. And even to the point where by the third or fourth time I had it worked out and said, listen, you don't have to totally down tune, but you can make it kind of our own version with a little bit of a and why I always forget this band. There goes the show. I kind of said to Steven before that I've had the last couple of days off work, so my brain's going to be full and fresh, and I won't forget anything. But there's this band where things were a little bit more gothic and deeper, kind of down tune a little bit and make it just kind of chunkier with heavier guitars. Still sing it probably in the same tempo if that works with down tuning. Probably does, right? But I thought it always would translate just as something cool. Well,
if you can take a Seal song and make it as cool as it was,
yeah.
Why not?
So I agree. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue bringing that up. Let's see who's there now. I can't tell who that is. Let's see. Oh, is it? Oh, it's The Cure, right?
It's
kind of hard to see.
Yeah, it's hard to see.
So anyway, that was always, was it a bucket list song to cover? I guess I'll put it in there. But yeah, to your point, Stephen, there's been a number of covers that have been recorded, in the no-con vein over the last couple of years. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Hey, look,
you mentioned,
I'm this way.
Yeah.
I'm down to try anything.
You've said that. You've said that on many shows.
You don't know unless
anything.
you try. I mean, It could be, you could say, oh, yeah, I want to turn out crap, or it was really good and work on something.
Yeah. Why not? It's just try it.
Try it.
It's funny, like you mentioned earlier, it's like, would the Police fall into this category of new wave? And I don't think of them as new wave. I think of them as a rock band, but I think just based on when they came out, they were kind of in that section, because if you look at some of the top records, and you said some of these bands, so some of these will be a repeat, but key artists and albums during this whole phase. And this one, there's two on here, but I won't say the second, Depeche Mode, because this gets into the 90s. But Speak and Spell, 81 with Depeche Mode, Talking Heads, Remain in the Light, 1980, The Cure, Disintegration, 89, New Order, Power, Corruptions and Lies in 83, Duran Duran, Rio, 1982.
Another
right
great
there.
song.
Fantastic, yeah. And that video you talked about, which is not on this record, and I should know that, but Girls on Film, it's on, I guess the first one, right? Yeah. But yeah, that video was banned on MTV, so they had to do an edited version because of it was too risque.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as I talked about, and this is what I should know their names. Yeah, Orlando's de Amor. This was another band that I didn't really, and I'll say The Police, Synchronicity in '83. But Synchronicity, that was that was a huge record. They played at that tour, which then they were done in '84, right? It maybe bled into '85, and that was
Right.
it. And they did some, yeah, they did some reunion shows. There was
About
yeah,
15 years ago or
yeah,
so.
it's been a while. And would they do anything again? Probably not. But that was a band, same thing. They sure does.
They should.
That was cool because Sting still, Sting is playing stadiums. He's doing like a co-headlining stadium, not a whole tour, but with Billy Joel.
Yeah.
So they're kind of mixing it up. So definitely there's a draw. But if there was Police, the Police like on a tour, that would be I'd go. And I never saw him. And that was I remember there was this he wasn't a kid. He was a couple years older, and I'm trying to remember his name. Mike, yeah, I won't say his last name. Let me turn on a light here. But Mike lived behind me in Garden Grove. There, the lights are on. Yeah.
Hey.
And,
Mike Lowry.
Yeah, Mike Lowry. I almost dropped $19.99 to watch the latest Bad Boys like on 2 nights ago. I'm going to wait. It needs to go down to $9.99 or maybe $5.99. But still,
it's good.
Yeah, I almost did because to me, and again, we always do this, so we'll go off topic and we'll come back to it. But
we have to do our movie thing too.
We will, yeah, we have to, and I think Bad Boys will be in there. They've had what, 4 of them or 5?
Yeah. First 2 were just so. Anyhow.
Yeah, but absolutely, yeah, great movies. But same thing. It's like you know what? I want to watch that. I ended up watching because we have like every pay movie source in the world.
Yeah, me too.
There's too many because I still flip through like, and then I do this rotation. Now I'm going to like Max, and then I'm like, if I make it to Peacock, then I'm really hurting. I need to find something.
Then you got
I jump back, and then there was just nothing. I ended up watching, which wasn't bad, the latest Planet of the Apes. I forget the.
No, I haven't seen it. I heard it's
the
good,
whole
though.
name. It was good. It was like 300 years in the future, which they're all in the future, but past. They try to keep the same timeline, but just add to it. Versus, I guess they've done. Clearly it's all fiction.
If Charlton Heston shows up, we're in trouble.
Yeah. But I remember watching those when they had the after school specials.
Absolutely.
On ABC.
Yep.
And you get home, and again, you'd have to lay in front of the TV, and you have to, if you did have the big remote with like 2 buttons on it, or you had to like, I'm sure we concocted something out of coat hangers or something just so we didn't have to like, we could reach and turn it, maybe we threw things at it
and
so
we
the dial would turn.
We had basically channel 2 through channel 13.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then we had what was it what was PBS, UHF, or I can't remember. But yeah, we only had a handful. It was CBS, ABC, channel 5, channel 9, channel 11, channel 13. That was it.
No, totally.
So you're watching MASH or Emergency or that's cool 70s shows.
Well, yeah, and that's funny because on one of my routines is I'll grab my phone, which I really, I guess I did the last 2 days. I'm just pulling up some other content here really quick. But I was looking at I'll go on IMDb and just see who are the birthdays of the day. So I'll flip through it, and it's it's just sometimes just interesting. There's definitely a ton that just have their name, so it's their birthday, but they don't list their age. I'm like, come on, really? I'm not going to tell people my age, but it was on Emergency, and God, now I forget his name, but it was the handsome with the chiseled jaw doctor. With the dark hair. There, I'll stop there, but. It wasn't the white hair.
Randolph Mantooth.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Randolph Mantooth, and who was the other guy? They were the paramedics.
Yeah,
and then this was in the hospital.
Kevin Tighe was the other paramedic.
Yeah.
I can't. I can see it right now because my dad back then in the 70s worked for the Highway Patrol, so he kind of knew these people in a roundabout way and how it
Yeah.
was filmed and all that, like Chips and stuff.
Right.
We would go see filming of Chips all the time.
Nice.
But you know, that TV series was a staple for us back then. It's like so funny how we went from the 80s to the 70s.
Well, yeah. So we do that though, right? And I'll just say, because another show I'd watch and probably started before Emergency, we'll have to pull these up and we'll get all of our facts. But Adam 12,
Yeah, when I'm 12.
yeah. And
Dragnet was
that
even
was
the very
Randolph
first one.
Mantu or whatever his name.
Oh yeah.
The talking about Chips. So yesterday, Larry Wilcox, John from Chips, he celebrated his. You want to guess how he old it? How he old is? How old he is now?
72.
77.
Wow.
Yeah. So that means Punch is pushing that too, right?
Oh yeah.
You know,
And here's a really sad thing about that they
Eric
and
Estrada, but we know
that-
him as
yeah.
Punch. Yeah.
Yeah, they took a Hispanic guy and turned him into an Italian guy. It's like, really? Come on. Don't be stupid.
Buffalo Wild
But
Wings.
I'll
is
tell you
back,
what though.
yeah.
He was the couple of the my dad took us to go see filming of Chips. He was a
Nice.
dick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a dick.
Well,
He
yeah,
was
that
all-
was his heyday, right?
He was
So-
he was all about himself, which you know, ego and you know, he was screaming and yelling and this isn't right. And I'm looking at my dad going, but I thought he was so cool.
Yeah, really.
Anyhow, fun stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll definitely do TV shows and movies. Absolutely,
Yeah,
we
that'll
have
be-
to because we keep on talking about it.
Real quick,
yes.
let me just run through a couple of 1983 populars from our new wave-ish era.
Yeah.
Relax, Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yep.
Blue Monday, New Order, Our House, In the Middle of the Street by Madness. Always Something There to Remind Me by Naked Eyes. You know, a lot of these songs I know. I just never remember some of the names of the bands. This one I remember.
right.
You mentioned earlier, The Fix, so Saved by Zero.
Fix is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, another good band.
Yeah.
Men Without Hats, The Safety Dance, fun song. Another fun song,
Yeah,
In a Big
yeah.
Country by Big Country. And this one always kind of cracked me up. I didn't have appreciation for it then, but I do now. It's Too Shy by Kaja Gugu.
So I was waiting for Kaja Gugu to come out. And then we got Bananarama.
I think they
too.
came out back then.
Yeah, I think they did. I think that was full. It was completely. There was no doubt about that. And then I know Bananarama. That there was like,
Oh,
whoa,
yeah.
we got to watch that video. I think that's when the early advent, and this is funny, the early advent of the VCR. Then you would record videos and just reverse it, and record videos and reverse it,
Yeah.
and probably put it on pause. For
times.
videos, just to see what was on. I'm sure it wasn't used for anything else, but
Sure, of course not.
yeah.
I can think
That's
of a
all of
Huey Lewis video.
Yeah.
If This Is It. And there's a scene where there's a girl on the sand and she rolls over and there's a little bit of a nip slip. And I was like, I caught that.
Yeah.
Plus,
it's like-
I caught that.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like, at that age, you know, everything
Oh,
was
yeah,
north.
well, it could be, oh my God, it's a knee. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the, the
funny.
fashion impact and certainly the,
Madonna.
yeah, the commercial impact. Let's hit on, and here are the top selling acts of the decade.
Do it.
All right. So we've talked about it a lot, but Duran Duran, Rio, Seven and the Ragged Tiger, 82 and 83, top albums, top singles, Hungry Like the Wolf, Rio, The Reflex. There's a few others I'd put in there too. Over 100 million records worldwide.
Wow.
And again, that was, I don't know. And I don't know if it was Beatles level, and probably not Taylor Swift level, but Duran Duran was certainly,
They were huge.
right there,
They were huge.
for sure. It was just screaming fans, just multiple sold out nights in arenas, and they had it all. And again, there was always something about just their music that just had a cool sound. And yeah, definitely from John Taylor and the bass.
Oh, guys, she
Yeah.
shreds.
Yeah. The Police, top album, Synchronicity, Ghost in the Machine, 83 and 81, Every Breath You Take, Roxanne, also two of the probably most overplayed songs, but you still can't question and challenge how great those are. Don't Stand So Close to Me, over 75 million over 75 million records worldwide during that time. Um, Again, right here, we talked about it earlier. How did they get kind of lumped into new wave? They really straddled that between new wave and rock, but they
Yeah,
definitely were one of the biggest bands in the '80s.
yeah.
Depeche Mode,
Oh, another
Violator,
great band.
Music for Masses, over 100 million records. And again, everybody knows the
And they
songs.
just went
Personal
on a big
Jesus.
tour.
Yeah, absolutely. They came through Nashville, and like there were some tickets at the top that probably were less than $20, and I almost just picked up two just to go because I'd never seen them, and that would have been where I would have been okay being in the 300 section
Sure,
and just like having a beer and just kind of
just chill.
saying, hey, here's a band that is one of the biggest bands in our lifetime, just to be able to see.
And one of those kind of like in that version of music, like an Iron Maiden,
Mm-hmm.
where they have that cult following. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
they just
absolutely.
sell out no matter what. Like kind of like the Cure.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
just
definitely.
they're so big still to this day.
Yeah. Um,
And then we also got to remember when in '85 with Live Aid,
oh yeah.
which brought in they did it at two stadiums. They did Wembley and then JFK
Mm-hmm.
in Philadelphia, and that had huge acts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Some of them though are kind of funny though. I'm kind of looking at the lineup. Hall and Oates. I'm like, okay, sure. I guess we got to fill some
Yeah.
slots. Huey Lewis, fun band. Power Station, good band. Bunch of different musicians joining up together. But another one that I just thought of too from the '80s was Spandau Ballet.
Oh yeah. So fun little story about them on Mr. Bungle, and
Yeah,
actually, so they do a number of covers, and I think they rolled in Spandau Ballet too.
did they
Um,
really?
but Faith No More at Coachella when they played a number of years back, they started their set with True.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like find it on YouTube. I know you're a
Yeah,
big fan of YouTube.
yeah. I'm a YouTube
Um,
guy.
yeah, and it's a great version. And then I think on Mr. Bungle they did. I believe it's true. If not, I'll check this and I'll update myself on the next show. But I believe it was Spandau Ballet and True, and then it went into Rain and Blood.
Wow,
So
doesn't that make sense?
yeah,
Because that's what they do.
yeah, right. So it
Yeah,
was
interesting too.
fantastic.
You brought up earlier in the lineups about U2, and if you listen to Bono talk in a couple of interviews before they did Sphere, he refers to his band as a rock and roll band.
Yeah,
We're a rock and roll band.
right.
So people's thought of what rock and roll is like you can really go back to pretty much maybe Elvis kind of pioneered it, I guess,
Hmm.
in a sense.
Yeah,
But just because it doesn't say rock and roll to you, it doesn't say rock and roll to somebody else. If it says rock and
missing
roll to
persons. Yeah.
Terry Bozzio, phenomenal drummer.
Oh
He
yeah.
used to be in a band called he actually used to play with Frank Zappa.
Hmm.
And then he did this has got way back into prog rock in the 70s in a band called UK.
Okay.
Terry Bozzio is a phenomenal drummer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Random.
Let me. Well, no, it was prompted. And look, now we have a steak ad. There we go. Yes, I don't have the paid version. I've said that already,
Steak ad.
but it's worth repeating. Um,
It's too bad
the
you don't have like an electric thing for your microphone, so you could just slide it back for the commercials and then slide it back up when the Papa John's
Yeah.
pizza commercial's over.
Yeah, so because I have like it's on more of a kind of a desktop. I had a big boom stand that
Right.
I need to get so I could fold it over. So again, it's part of just incorporating new things into the show, into the studio. That'll be something I'll need to do.
I like the boom stand I got now. It's feasible.
Yeah. I've had a few of those. a few more. I'll just run through these artists that we've talked
Please.
about, but as far as just being like top 10 selling, Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams,
Yes.
83, Touch, both came out in 83, so they were pretty busy that year. Again, Sweet Dreams as a song, Here Comes the Rain, huge, over 75 million records during that time.
That's crazy.
Tears for Fears, of all the bands in this era, one of my top bands, for sure. Songs from the Big Chair, and then The Hurting, which is that behind me somewhere. There we go. Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Shout, and Mad World, over 30 million.
And they're touring again. And
they are.
I saw real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
I saw a song they did live, and they sound exactly the same. They look almost exactly the same, other than the one guitar player's got long white hair now. But
yeah, right.
They sound flawless.
Yeah, they went on. It's funny you mentioned Hall & Oates a couple of minutes ago. So there was, I think this was maybe 3 years ago now, maybe 2. Let's say 2 to 3. They did a tour with Tears for Fears and Hall & Oates, and that was before the Hall & Oates divorce. Yeah, and business divorce. I don't want to put some false information out there. Business divorce. But they were playing multiple nights in arenas, and they did 2 or 3 at Staples before. So yeah, it goes back to Staples before they changed the name to Crypto Arena. So yeah, again, the drawing power is still there, and the ability is definitely still there.
I saw Hall & Oates about 6-7 years ago at Staples.
Yeah,
they're good.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Human League, we talked about them. 81, Dare, Don't You Want Me, Human, Love Action, over 20 million records worldwide. Talking Heads, Remain in Light, and Speed, Speaking in Tongues. So there was a couple years ago, post-COVID, but with all the festivals, they were offered, and probably like a Coachella thing for sure. How much were they offered? I think they were offered like a couple $100 million to get back together and do like multiple shows.
Wow.
And they turned it down. And maybe, let's just say 100 million, and I'll fact check it, but definitely like a tidy sum of money. And they said no.
You gotta wonder.
Yeah. Like, not interested, do they get along? Who knows?
Yeah, I think they did the same thing with ABBA.
Yeah.
Offered all this money, and they're like, our heyday was the 70s. We're done.
Right. And you can't fault anybody,
No.
Like we'll do a show, another topic. We like to throw these out there of bands that should go away. And there's a few that come off the top of my head, like Motley Crue and maybe some others that, okay, enough's enough. Right. Just move on and be done with it, because it's not helping.
No.
Blondie, Parallel Lines, Auto American in 78 and 80. Again, they were like the early. I remember, speaking of Duran Duran was opening for Blondie right when they first came over to America. And by that time, Blondie was, playing arenas, and she's still, God, what is she? Is she late 70s? And she was in Coachella. I remember watching that, because that's a cool thing with Coachella. You can, on YouTube, they have multiple channels based on the different stages and the tent. And while I'd never been to a Coachella and probably would never go, you could still experience pretty much every band in the comfort of your home. So that was pretty cool.
Thinking of another artist that came out in the 80s through that was Pat Benatar.
Yeah.
Hit Me With Your Best Shot. That album came out in 1980.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And another staple they played on MTV a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Got some more ads. So if you want to get a mattress right there.
Casper.
Yeah. I got to get by these. Sorry, Steven.
No.
This was kind of a surprise, just based on the number of records worldwide. But you couldn't. Again, this was one of those where every second you turned your head, they were playing a video on MTV. Was Aha
Yes.
at
Take
like
on me.
and the animation, right?
Yeah.
That was a global hit. And I think it won like video of the year too. It definitely at that point it was really cutting edge and made them one of the more recognizable acts. But 50 million records they've sold.
But they were kind of almost a one-hit wonder, weren't they? I mean,
Well,
I
50
don't know any
million
other
records worth, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's fine. That's fine. But I
And
don't
that's
know
why I
any
was
of their other
surprised.
songs.
Yeah. Simple Minds, which Breakfast Club, they were known before that, but Don't You Forget About Me was a massive, massive song. And again, when we talk music, and well, when we talk movies, and then we'll also detail out some of our favorite music in movies. Simple Minds would come out as well in that. Again, 60
I'm thinking
million
of
records.
I'm thinking like the Breakfast Club, the movie too.
Yeah, the Breakfast Club. Yeah,
Those all the I heard somebody talking the other day. I don't know who it was talking about that. The 80s was the best time for movies and music. You think of all those movies that came out in the 80s, the music that came out in the 80s, it was like just
So did you know this? Did you know this? I didn't know it until I just saw it right now. That Tainted Love from Soft Cell was a cover.
No.
Yeah. So it's a cover of a 1960s soul song. And their version of Tainted Love became clearly a massive hit, known for its minimalist production and Mark Almond's distinctive voice. And one of the most defining songs of the new wave genre. Yeah, for sure.
That was all electronic.
Yeah, it's cool for sure. It was like,
I mean, I if I hear it, I'll keep it on. I mean,
yeah.
it's
and then Marilyn Manson did it a number of years later,
yes,
right?
He did.
Which was a really good version too.
Yeah.
I don't know about his new stuff that just came out. I played a song the other night on the show, and I'm like, yeah,
I thought
don't
he was
know.
in prison.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's like, wait, he got out, yeah. But yeah, we won't talk about that. Once in a lifetime again. So there's definitely an appreciation, for sure, of Talking Heads. I was never really a big fan of Talking Heads. I don't. There's really no reason. It's probably more a matter of just a certain sound, right? That just either stood out or didn't. But you can't deny what their musicianship and what their contribution is for sure.
There was a good Saturday Night Live, I think it was a couple years ago, where David Byrne came out and did that song, same as it ever was. But they were all. It was interesting to see how each one of them. I can't describe it. I don't want to screw it up, but it go on Saturday Night Live. If you look it up and see David Byrne, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I was blown away by it. I told Isabel, and she was like, wow, how did they do that? It was like they were fading in and out. You couldn't see him, and then you could see him. And that guy's smart.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Let's see what else. I think some of the bands that we didn't really hit on yet, and you mentioned some of them, so it's worth repeating. Like for me, that stand out that in this genre that I really, really like. Bauhaus, Love and Rockets, Psychedelic Furs, Devo, The Fix, Flock of Seagulls,
Berlin.
Those. And I did a show probably 2 years ago, and I did it on a Saturday. It was just a one-off, and I pulled in music like that, and I might do it again.
It's
because
fun.
there's just a lot of songs where you kind of forget about them.
Yeah.
But then there's other ones that just come on, and
Eileen.
I like jumping around like on Sirius. I'll listen to that when I'm driving sometimes, and a pull on the New Wave channel. And probably sometimes there's just a banger one after the next for like maybe 5, sometimes 10 in a row. and then I won't have to change it. 'Cause other times, same thing, like trying to find something on Netflix or on Prime, I'm like skipping around on satellite. That's why with Apple Music, same thing. I have all these musics. I have a problem with subscriptions, by the way. So
Me too.
I have all these music subscriptions, and I have the TV and the movie ones. But like on Apple Music, not a paid sponsor, I'll go ahead and just listen to a full record. So I think I might do that next time I get into the car. I didn't even drive.
I like the
yet.
Apple Music subscription because you can you can take the whole album, or you can take a song.
Mm-hmm.
New albums that come out, you can download it and go, oh yeah, it's good, and then you can dump it. I usually just load them on and leave them. I mean, my iPhone can hold 1 trillion songs probably, but it's such a wide variety of different types of music, from country to rap to new wave to rock to metal to I can't think of her name. She's got such a wonderful voice. Anyhow, I'll move on. But
Yoko Ono.
Yeah, she was it. That made that whole rubber band thing good. Alicia Keys.
Okay,
yeah. I hear a song, and if it moves me, I want to hear it. I have a fixation for female vocalists, and I don't know why. It's always been like, oh, that sounds so good. That sounds so good. That sounds so good. And I my music, like I'm sure your music catalog is probably similar to mine, where you're like, oh yeah, I have that. Oh yeah, that makes sense why you have that.
It's definitely expanded more over the last like 2 decades. But yeah, and again, it
sure.
depends. It depends on the mood. Because what was I? Oh yeah, so I know that this is a band you're fond of. So today is the 35-year anniversary of the release.
Bring it.
1 second here. Not new wave.
Viking.
Yeah. Man of Straw. And
on
the back, if I get really, really close on the bottom,
hey, look at that.
There. Yeah.
How about that?
At the very bottom, like right down here in really small print, says my name there.
How about that?
Right there. But yeah, Ron, he posted this morning. He goes, yeah, on Facebook, basically you don't realize how old you are until you wake up to all kinds of messages, people, congratulating you on the anniversary of, which for them, they ended up releasing 3 records, but the 2 were kind of back to back that were on Metal Blade and distributed through Caroline. And that's when I was at Metal Blade, but I also did a lot of work with them as well. And again, you've shared your story before, which will be another topic of bands that told us to fuck off. So we'll be working on that as well. But that brought back some memories, and it's weird, and you can find it if you follow Ron or not on Facebook. So I just posted. I go, wow, great memories. That was a great time. Winter is my favorite track. And I didn't write off that record, but I figured most people would get it. And I think to overly explain, just a kind of benign Facebook post. I get a reply from William Howe, who worked in the industry for years. He was at Metal Blade and Capitol. And it's DJ Will. You probably see stuff on Facebook. He was on KNAC for a number of years. But his reply to my comment was, I'll just pull it. It was, I'll say, kind of weird. It was kind of weird. It was basically the name of the song and the time. And I'll bring it up so this makes sense in a second. I wrote, I just listened to, and I did on Apple Music. I just listened to it last week. Winter is still my favorite track. Great songs and great memories. Reply, Scott Nocon, 750 TT.
Okay.
XR7 23-5. I'm like, and I just liked it, but I'm like, okay, well, so I don't know why. This is one of the random stuff in social media. I know how long the song is. I think technically it's 7 minutes and 47 seconds. And I was going to put that as a reply, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, let's just round it up. It's almost 8 minutes long. Let's just call it that.
Right.
Yeah. I like long songs that they're, for some winter last a long time. The song lasts a long time too. There's lots of parts to it. And they're just kind of random,
Wow.
like what was the context there? What was the point of that? I don't know. And this is not someone I regularly message with or comment on or anything. So it's like, all right.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Thank you for the time.
Yeah.
So speaking of time, I think we did it all, right, Stephen?
Yeah.
We touched on, new wave, the bands, the songs, what was kind of the impact and importance on pop culture. You can still listen to it today. There's still fantastic songs. There's still either one-off tours. I forget the name, but it was a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or a little bit longer at the Rose Bowl. And I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it was a whole bunch of bands in that era that played. And I think I don't remember if The Cure was there. So clearly this is a very, very good, explanation. But, still to this day, there's still bands like on, talking about on satellite radio on the New Wave channel, Richard Blade, who was on K-Rock for years.
Yeah.
He's still doing it. And he keeps it alive for sure. He's a major, he's had a major impact, and going all the way back to Rodney on the Rock, that was instrumental in a number of genres, not just new wave, but they're still out there touring. Right. And so you can pull it up, and there's a lot of stuff during the summer that will be at country fairs, county fairs, but they'll kind of run through the arenas, sometimes maybe the sheds, as they say.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun, enjoyable music. Many of those were part of our growing up. So it left this mark that
indelible mark.
Yes. I was going to try that word.
And for those who are paying attention, if there's a band that you guys like that we may have missed, feel free to share and hit us up, because there's so many that we could cover, probably the more popular ones and some of the ones that we not necessarily know who they are, or maybe we know the song and we're like, oh, that's who that is, which is entirely possible, because as you get to be my age,
I just remember there was a tour, and it's in a way maybe it's an odd lineup, but I want to go, and I don't think it's happened yet, so maybe it happens in the fall. Jane's Addiction and Love and Rockets.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I'm like, that might be, because it's Love and Rockets hasn't played for years, but that's always been one of those bands during this era that stood out to me. And again, Psychedelic Furs, like them as well. Peter Murphy as a solo artist, really, he might be like near the top in this overall genre. Cuts Like a Knife is probably, like, if we did a breakdown of and rock is relative, but let's say non-metal, non-rock, like we're not talking The Who, we're not talking Genesis, we're not talking Yes. No. If you put it into this genre, Cuts Like a Knife is probably top 5 for me. So there we go. So guys, hope you enjoyed a little bit of a departure from what we normally do. And if you did, perfect. If you loved it, tell us. If you hated it, tell us. We want comments either way. That just helps generate, future topics. It's one more reason just to talk about all of this. Again, make sure you check us out. The list is almost getting too long, so I have to put up a little cheat sheet now. But again, Spotify every week, Instagram, there's Reels. Please follow us. We could use a little bit more followers on Instagram. We're getting a lot of views on Reels, and I'm a kind of a data nerd, so I look at all the stats that come in, and a lot of the views are non-subscribers, but there's been a few in a row that have had 150, 175, which for us is, is fantastic.
Huge.
Again, that's on Instagram. So please, help us out, subscribe to it, follow that. You get all the information. You can buy t-shirts like what Steven's wearing. You can go to 99WNRR.com. We're on there on 7 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. We mix in some music as well as our talking aspects of the show. So that gives you a little bit more of just not the same thing you could listen to on Spotify or YouTube Music or
Right.
Amazon Music or anywhere. I'll just at that point. I think proper decorum, Stephen, is if you say more than 3, stop at 3 and say, and wherever you stream music or wherever you stream a podcast, just search for Talking Show, Talking Podcast. Follow it. We appreciate it. We're bringing in, more sponsors and advertisers. Wheelie Q Barbecue. Please go out and visit their site, buy their products. It goes to a worthy cause. And if you put in the coupon code, you get a 20% off. We'll make sure we put that in the comments
TSP
below.
20.
Yeah. Yes. So again, as always, Stephen, appreciate you making the time. We'll keep doing it. It's week after week after week after week.
Yeah.
And we enjoy it. Hopefully this, visually let us know. If you say, can you blur out your faces in the future or maybe mine because you don't like looking at it, we could probably do that. We'll fix it in post. But
We'll wear Slipknot masks next time.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, right. We'll have to do that. We'll wear masks going forward.
And if you guys have a topic you want us to talk about, also share. Scott looks at them, I look at them, they pop up on my algorithm all the time, and I'm always in looking and liking and watching and listening, and they're fun. We have a good time doing it. We hope you guys have a good time watching us doing it because it's fun. We ramble and we're just talking and that's what it's about. It's just
absolutely
talking, having a good time with music, and
we're just going. We have a drink, and you can get those too if you want a coffee mug, you want a beer stein. Yeah. Again, you can find all that at 99WNRR.com. Click on the store. That's where it's all at. That helps us, keep the lights on there.
Hey, I was just going to say that too.
So, again, until next time, Scott Nokon, Stephen James, talking
We appreciate it.
Yep. See ya.
See ya.
Thanks again for tuning in to the show. We'll be back every week with a brand new episode. Make sure you check us out on Instagram at Talking Show, and also listen on Spotify or wherever you can stream a podcast. See ya.